Hello, everybody. This is Bill from Sit Rep Podcast, and you're listening to the next exciting adventure here in the Sit Rep Podcast. In today's show, Marty will bring us the latest and greatest in news. We'll talk about the birth and the death of two different games. And Jim will fill us in on what's going on this weekend in live wargaming. And lastly, we'll talk about our topic. And that topic relates to, can you have fun even if you know you're going to lose or possibly lose? All that and more in today's show. And 3, 2, 1, hit it.
Big Duke 6 Eagle Thrust. Put on Sidewar, make it loud. And the Romeo Foxtrot, shall we dance?
You are listening to the Sitrep Podcast, your source for everything related to historical wargaming. Whether you are looking for the latest wargaming news, reviews, painting tutorials, or playthroughs, you will hear about it right here. So grab your favorite beverage or brush and let's hit it.
All right, welcome back for another awesome show. We got everybody at the table today. Well, of course, as we always do, we're going to do our roll call. And in bright, sunny Florida, is it sunny today, Jim? Because I was looking at the underwater cam at Deerfield Beach at the pier, and it looked pretty turbid. So, how is it out there?
Oh, that underwater cam you're talking about at Deerfield Beach, that's like 3 miles away from my house.
Is it really?
Crow flies. Oh. Yeah, I live in Deerfield Beach.
Nice.
Right now it's gorgeous.
Is it really? Okay.
We're dodging some hurricanes. Well, the hurricanes are turning away from us, which is good.
Okay. So is the water a little angry right now? Is that why the camera?
I haven't been there. I haven't been there in a while. Gotcha. It's possible that from Hurricane Sam, some of the swells are turning up some stuff.
Gotcha.
That's normally a very calm beach. Like the surfers never go there.
Yeah.
Because there's never any waves or turbulence.
Yeah, we watch that camera like every day and watch the pier, the underwater camera at the pier, because it's amazing what you see at that pier. So.
I know that pier. I'm literally 3 miles away as a crow flies from that pier.
Very cool. Well, that's awesome. Well, welcome, Jim, to this awesome show. We're glad you're here with us. And over here in the Midwest, we have our computer guru, and now laser guy. Makes some more freaking lasers, Mr. Christopher Wimmer. How are you, sir?
Doing fine.
Laser. Have you melted anything yet or cut off Marty's toe?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Well, you're not trying hard enough.
Nope. Not yet.
To be fair, we haven't actually installed the laser yet.
Oh.
The tube.
The tube.
So yeah, it's coming probably. Just saying.
Yep.
So that voice you guys hear is Mr. Martin Schaefer, our projects director. And if you guys haven't been catching up on the Facebook page, they've been posting pictures of the two of them, the dynamic duo, working on creating a laser cutter from it's a kit, right? It's not like a homebrew,
Nope.
It's an actual kit? Or is it a homebrew?
No. So it's not actually a homebrew. Well, Chris, you explained it. I mean, this is really your project.
It's not a homebrew, but it's not a kit. It's a site that gives you the instructions on the parts list.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, detailed instructions, all the parts that the guy used. He's got a 10 or 12 series of tutorial videos on building it.
Uh-huh.
And so we said, okay, we can pretty much read and watch videos and have tools to cut things and whatnot.
Sure.
So far, it's gone together.
Awesome.
Despite our best
So is
effort.
this readily available materials? Or do you have to order them from special sites?
The material depends on the site. You can get it pretty much all one site if you want.
Uh-huh.
But Amazon has a lot, and depends on how long you want to wait for the parts.
Gotcha. All right. Well, there you have it, guys. That's the show. We'll see you later. No, I'm kidding.
Been great.
As we typically do here at the podcast, we like to do some catch up on what you have been doing over the last 2 weeks for hobbying and other good, crazy stuff. And since you guys have already piqued my curiosity with this laser, why don't you guys talk more about your projects and really tell us about this laser and what do you plan to do with it?
Well, it's a freaking laser,
right? Come on. It's going to have. It's going to be close to a 2-foot by 4-foot bed, 100-watt laser.
Okay, is that
and,
good? It's 100 watt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for a home laser. That's on the high end of power.
Okay.
Yep, and to put it into some perspective, the Glowforge I think is 40 watt. Glowforge Pro is 50 watt.
Okay.
And the bed's obviously much smaller on the Glowforge.
I'm on Amazon just looking at laser cutters just so I get a frame of reference. So everything I'm seeing is pretty much 20 to 40 watts. There is a 150 watt, but it says it's CO2. Do you need CO2 for your thing to keep it cool?
No, we use water.
Oh.
It's got a chiller system.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be very interested. Man, that's like $4,000. Be very interested to see how this works out. So, what are your plans for said laser cutter?
We're going to be
Before we get into that, we have to remind everybody that Alderaan is in fact already blown up, so you can't blow it up again.
Oddly enough, Jim, so the other night when we were working on that, I think I cracked that joke like 3 times.
All right, so I'm not even original now. All right, no worries. Keep going. Sorry for interrupting.
Well, I'm like, what are we going to test fire it on?
Jim, that was
it comes
awesome.
down to
and I need a 4'7" princess.
Well, you have that.
You have that, yeah.
Oh, it's true. I have like 3 of them at my house.
You have 2 of them. Just one's your queen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, the Schaefer ladies are all 4'11", literally all 4'11". Well, Morgan might be 5 even, but it's hard telling.
That's awesome.
It's like Lilliput over here, land of the little people.
That's very cool. All right. So
the
go ahead.
With the laser.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to look it up, if you go to YouTube and you look at Further Fabrication, great guy, great instructional videos.
Okay.
Yeah, he's an Aussie from down under.
Nice.
Actually, he's not an Aussie. He's a New Zealander.
Oh, so he's a Kiwi.
Oh,
yep, Kiwi.
He's in Australia, though, right?
No.
I thought he was bitching about Australia. Something about Australia in one of them.
Man, now you just started a war.
Threw me off. Yeah, well, they're all on lockdown, so they can't do anything about it anyway.
But this guy's definitely got some talent. He works in the film industry as a what did you say it was, Marty? Designer?
I was gonna say some sort of like set designer.
Yeah. So between his first and second video, I guess there was a long period of time, and he apologized because the film industry called and he needed to go to work. And it appears that he was working on Avatar 2.
Wow.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. All right. So, as far as your laser cutter engraver, are you planning to do like terrain and stuff with it, or just whatever?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, everything from that to cutting foam for tools or miniatures. Yep.
Yeah.
Plastics.
Yeah. So once we have the ability to like laser cut terrain, then we have to figure out how to design it.
Well,
so
Chris is all about AutoCAD and all that stuff. So
yeah. But I mean, we've never.
But I think on Thingiverse,
designed it before.
On Thingiverse, you can get files too. If you want to look at stuff. So there's all kinds of files out there. But that's cool. That's very cool. Just another tool in the arsenal. No pun intended.
Absolutely.
So very cool. All right.
Absolutely.
So outside of trying to create the next Death Star, what else you guys been up to?
For me, that's it.
That's it.
I've been that and working.
Gotcha. I know you're working on your research or something like that, right?
I did complete my research.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I've been doing a little painting. I got, let's see, I got 3 heroes from Dust and a Ranger Observer squad because, as you know, Bill, I've always bitched about not being able to effectively use my artillery because I don't have a legit observer. Mm-hmm. Well, now I do, so
nice. Getting
those guys painted up. And then I decided, I paint a lot of green and brown.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. So I wanted a little change of pace, so I cracked open Guild Ball. I bought a Guild Ball starter set at my friendly local hobby store.
Didn't they give you a starter set? I had like 4.
No, you gave me some boxes of figures, but I mean, I've got the box set that's got the rules, the starter dudes, the dice, the mat, all that.
Okay.
So yeah, I started painting those guys up.
And it's actually a really good game, and it's amazing. We can talk about that because that kind of rolls into one of our topics. But Guild Ball is a good game. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it looks like it, and I'm like, well, I'm not playing unpainted because I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I could, but I'm that guy. Why would I? I have to paint, and I enjoy painting. So the Brewers Guild is almost done, and the Masons Guild is primed, and I think I just I do I kind of do the inside out method. So I think they just have their skin painted.
Cool.
So
very cool.
They will be next, and then me and the kids will play some Guild Ball.
Very cool. That's awesome. You'll like it. It's a lot of fun.
It looks like it, and I know Steamforge let the game die.
Yeah.
That's not correct. I know they no longer support it.
Right.
Because the game is still it's still
out there. But yes, you're right, 100%. It's no longer supported, which is a darn shame because again, we'll talk about that here shortly. But
yeah. But I was looking for inspiration on how to paint, and there's a lot of stuff out there about it, and people seem to really enjoy it.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
looking forward to it.
Very cool.
That's been about it. Spent some time over there at Chris's helping him build this freaking laser. Yeah.
Very cool. Sir Jim, how are you, sir? Are you ready?
Not too bad.
Hit it.
A lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of Valor and Victory is pretty much taking over my life at the moment. Work's been very busy. We just completed another end of quarter, so I haven't had a whole lot of hobby time to begin with. And then on top of that, it's been Valor and Victory. Play testing for the upcoming Stalingrad scenario pack that we're doing for some people.
Yep.
It's just been a lot of that. We did feature some of it on our recent stream, and that was a lot of fun. We had a game at Pavlov's house with Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Actually pretty kick-ass. It's a fun video. Sometimes those games are like, okay, this guy's winning. Can this guy hold out? And again, this rolls into our topic, so I won't go into it too much. But this game really was, back and forth like a set of saloon doors, man. I mean, I'm rolling 2s, 3s, and 4s, which is the best rolls possible in that game. He's rolling 10s, 11s, and 12s, and then the next turn, it's reversed. And it's a great video if you guys want to check it out.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and it was good to hear Andrew back on the channel.
So. Oh yeah, we did Andrew recently, or we featured him somewhat recently. We did part of Operation Goodwood in Panzer Leader.
Yeah,
and so we go back and forth. I mean, we tried to cycle through our players on our Sundays so that we're not burning anybody out besides me. I'm just kidding. So we're not burning anybody out, and we don't want to, get the audience, tuned off or anything like that.
Right.
Which leads us into tomorrow. Tomorrow's game will be a little bit later in the day than usual. So for people who like to check out our Sunday streams, I know there's some of you out there, don't log on at the normal time and say, oh, they're crapping out on us. We are going to be on. It's just going to be a little bit later in the day.
Yeah.
It's going to be 5 p.m. Eastern. 10 p.m. UK time, because we have Dylan on tomorrow's stream, LSR 2590, or another historian war gamer, if you want to check out his great YouTube channel. And he is in Queensland, Australia. So he's going to be getting up on a Monday at like 6 a.m. in the morning in order to game with us.
Yeah.
So even with that kind of, we were talking, or you guys were talking about it on the Wednesday show about how global we are with some of these games. There is a flip side to that. Time zones do become an issue.
Yes, they do.
So he's got to get up at a really wonky time. We're going to have to push back our normal broadcast time a little bit, but we're going to meet in the middle, and it's going to be like at 5 p.m. Eastern. I guess that's 4 p.m. for you guys, and 10 p.m. In the UK. But we are going to be on, and we're going to be using Panzerleader Moderns. We're going to go back to Moderns because we've just done Stalingrad. We want to do at least 50% post-1945 as always. And the subject is going to be something that's kind of piqued my interest lately, and that's going to be one of the other areas where NATO and Russia could conceivably really come to loggerheads. Oh. We've done the Ukraine now a couple times. The other one is in the Baltic states.
Yeah.
We're talking about Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. These are three countries that used to be Soviet republics. They were Soviet republics starting in April 1940, and they've been Soviet republics ever since, until the fall of the Soviet Union, obviously. Now they are NATO states. So part of NATO is literally part of what used to be the Soviet Union. So we've, not with tanks and gunships and artillery, but we've, through politics and diplomacy, invaded part of what used to be the Soviet Union and taken what used to be Soviet territory and made it into NATO countries.
Right.
Needless to say, this does not sit well in Moscow at all. Never has, never will, especially since these three states happen to sit right next to the Baltic Sea. The Russian naval and maritime access to the Baltic Sea has been a very touchy issue with the Russians since the days of Peter the Great. I mean, the Battle of Narva, the Great Northern War, Charles XII of Sweden, they've been fighting over this for 400 years. They're not slowing down anytime soon. So with those three being NATO states now, and Poland just to the south also being a NATO state, this is the other big thing that could potentially. We're going to have like an actual battlefield battle tomorrow with tanks and artillery and helicopter gunships because that's what we like to do. I don't think that's ever going to happen, or at least not in the foreseeable future. But the next Ukraine could easily be Estonia, or especially Estonia or Latvia. Yeah. There's at least a 25 to 30% Russian ethnic population there, and that's the kind of place that Moscow likes to target. They, incite some sort of violence in the area. They claim that their ethnic population is being oppressed or whatever, and then before you know it, there's a little rebellion going on there, and Russia is totally, air quotes, not supporting some sort of separatist movement or whatever.
Right.
Now, in the Ukraine, that's one thing. In, the Caucasus, that's another thing. In, what used to be Moldavia, that's another thing. This would be actually NATO states. So how this would interact with Articles 4 and 5 of the NATO Charter is a big topic for debate. We can probably talk about this more tomorrow. But it's a thing that could really happen. And this is why American troops and British troops are now stationed in Poland. And this is why, even the Croatians, all kinds of countries are sending troops to either northern Poland or these three Baltic states, because this could be the next big one. Depending on what happens between, Washington and Moscow and Brussels and Moscow and everything else.
Yeah.
So we'll be taking a look at that tomorrow, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Nice. That'll be awesome. I look forward to that. And guys, remember, you can always catch that on our YouTube channel, Facebook, and Twitch. Also, make sure you like and subscribe and share with your friends. So help support our channel by liking and subscribing our pages. That helps us as well. Very good. I'm very
and don't forget the new webpage.
I was getting there.
I'm just saying, you ran down everything else.
I hadn't had a chance to talk about me yet. Hold your horses, right, brother. Hold your horses.
Fine.
All right, so What have I been up to lately? Well, I've been doing a little bit. I almost feel like I've been doing a gym. I've been so busy with stuff, I don't know where to begin. But if you caught Wednesday's live stream, it was a studio catch-up, okay? We talked about everything that's been going on over the last couple of weeks and where we see the future going and things like that. So we now have a new website. The new website is www.thesitreppodcast.com. You got to put the in there, THE, because if you don't, you might come up with some other website. So make sure you put in thesitreppodcast.com. That'll take you to our new website, and that is a one-stop shop, guys and ladies. You will see our front page with all our SitRep podcast episodes on it. There's a blog page. Jim and I will have to get everybody access and so they can post on the blog pages. So that's where you're going to see, announcements and, thoughts of the day or whatever. Or if somebody gets a hankering to write a small article about a game or a combat event or campaign, whatever, you'll see it there in the blog pages. We also welcome guest authors. So one of the links on the homepage is register as a guest. If you go into that link, it has a big thing where you put in your name, your email address, et cetera, et cetera. You can put a note in there, and we'll reach out to you if you would like to submit something for the blog page. Everybody's welcome, but you do have to sign up through the guest page, please. Also, another important link, this helps support everything that we're doing currently, because not only did I create a web page, but I did create a new merch spot. So if you go under the supply room, that takes you to our new store. And in that store, you will find mugs, glasses, and shirts and T-shirts and sweatshirts. And I am looking at my brand new SitRep Podcast coffee mug. Came yesterday. And the graphic looks really good. So I'm still waiting on my T-shirt and my sweatshirt to come in. I think I have a bar glass coming as well. So I did add a few more full color items to there. I'm waiting on the shot glasses to drop into the store. I did send a request ask that as an option, so I'm waiting to hear back on that. So if you're looking to get some merchandise to support the podcast, please hit that link. Also, another exciting thing is that we ship from the U.S. and the EU. So you guys over on the other side of the pond, you don't have to pay ridiculous amounts of shipping to get something sent to you from the grand old U.S. of A. You can just have it dropped from the EU. I'm not exactly sure where in the EU it ships from, but it can be ordered on that side of the Atlantic as well, which is extremely good news. Also, there's some other things in the works. One of the things I can announce is that we do have one sponsor. It's our good friend Chris and his son Alex, who do modernmini3d.com. And that is a print-on-demand service for moderns, and they have World War II and all kinds of amazing miniatures. So you'll find a link when I get the sponsor page built. And for new subscribers, they're offering a discount. So if you subscribe to our our YouTube channel, I get a notification that you subscribed. I will send you a discount link if you'd like to order something. Once we get a membership page built, I imagine Chris and Alex will work with us to have a members-only discount as well. So make sure you check out modernmini3d.com, the official sponsor of the SitRep podcast. So make sure you support those guys. Outside of that, I am in works to create another kind of studio. That's really all I can say about it right now. But it's going to be a collective of brain trusts, if you will. So, which will be under the SitRep Studio. So we'll be talking about that more.
A collective?
No, it's a creative studio.
Oh, okay.
Creative studio. Jim knows what I'm meaning. Jim's probably, he's intelligent.
I thought you were going back to the commie stuff we were talking about earlier.
No commie stuff. We don't do commie stuff
What
here.
are we doing?
No commie stuff.
We totally do commie stuff. We have to be at least 50% commie. You know why? It is wise to know the ways of your enemies.
Plus,
don't underestimate them, and don't. You have to know what they're doing, or else.
It's also the other team that we're playing against in half our game.
Yeah. If you go by gaming pieces and miniatures, we're probably 2/3 communists because they always outnumber us.
So speaking of communists, I am completing my Soviet Army box from Battle Group North Hag in 10mm. So I completed the British Army starter box. They only got 4 tanks. 4. Just 4.
The Soviets only got 4?
No, the Brits.
Right.
The Brits. Yeah.
The Soviets have 10 in the starter box.
Yeah. That's exactly correct. It's a troop versus a company.
But my question
or in our
is,
language,
are the
a platoon
chieftains
versus a company?
Now to all my UK friends, please do not take my next question to heart or be offended by it. But are the chieftains really that good? Can they survive 10 versus 4?
It depends what the 10 are.
First of all,
the 10 are T-64s? T-62s?
The chieftain has a built-in coffee pot, so yes.
No, it's a teapot.
But I would put coffee in it, and I'm hugely jealous that their vehicles have those.
See, Bill was all worried about
short and stout,
right?
So
Bill was all worried about whether or not we were going to offend the British about talking about the chieftain. You just called their teapot a coffee pot,
right?
Yeah.
Facing off against
American.
T-64s is going to be one thing. Calling their coffee pot a teapot or vice versa, that's what's really going to do it.
Well, you can lead a Brit to coffee, but you can't make him drink it.
Ooh. So, yes,
Would I
it's
take
10
4
T-64s.
T-64. Would I put, there's a big difference between a 62 and a 64,
Okay.
big time. These are probably the earlier marks of the T-64 because the game takes place in like 1983, I think, something like that. So no reactive armor. Are there any reactive armor blocks on the T-64s yet?
Not that I see.
Yeah, so it's got to be the early, like the T-64As. So as long as the British are on defense, and I think the British also don't they have like some swing fires on like APCs or light armored vehicles, things like that? Swing fire,
So
anti-tank
you
guided
get
weapons.
10 chieftains, and you do have the Stillbrew turret option. You get 4 FV-432s, which is like their APC.
Yeah.
You get 34 infantry and 2 Scorpions or Scimitar turret options.
Right, and some of those options include the swing fires because that's going to be the big equalizer.
Okay.
That's their version of the TOW or whatever. It's probably better. In fact, in terms of armor penetration, it is better than the TOW, especially the TOWs back in those days. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be an even battle, especially since the Soviets are probably on the attack.
Gotcha. Yeah, the scenario I kind of see is, the Brits they get an alert that Soviet forces have crossed the border, and this squadron, aren't they called a squadron or troop? In the
a troop is a troop is equivalent to a platoon in tanks, British tanks, and a squadron is usually equivalent to a company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be 4 British tanks? Is that a troop or a squadron?
Troop.
A troop. Okay.
It's basically a platoon, so
Gotcha.
it's a troop.
Okay. So this troop.
So in most Cold War games, or most even East or West, East versus West modern games, this is what we went across when you took on Rasmus in North Korea. You take whatever platoon or whatever echelon level for the Western side that you're on. In your case, it was a reinforced platoon, and you just click it up one. Oh, so what's above a platoon is a company, and you give the other side a company. If you take a company in Panzerleader, in Western tanks, you give the Soviet or their allies a battalion. Gotcha. If it's a battalion, you give them a regiment. If it's a regiment, you give them a division or whatever. It's basically a 3-to-1.
Gotcha.
And whatever echelon level is, you just click it up by 1. So this troop versus company that you're describing sounds, right down the middle of the highway.
Okay.
Yep.
So basically, they're going to come through a little valley, in an out of the way place, in between Eastern and Western Germany, or and then the Brits are pretty much going to sit on a rise in the forest and pop their guns out and pop them as they come down and go from there, I guess. I don't know. We'll see what events, but I'm going to finish those guys up this weekend. The nice thing about the Soviet Army at that time, the armor, it's one color. There's no camouflage. There's nothing. It's just this Soviet green, and then you weather
all green.
Yeah, so it's going to be a quick, easy paint.
Spray it all green, and like maybe some dark gray on the tracks.
Yep.
Some highlighting, maybe
a little dry brush on the corners.
Yeah, for some kind of color.
Yeah.
That ditching log on the back,
Yep.
And maybe some stowage. just so you have just so it's not literally like a green plastic army man out of the bag from Target or whatever.
little green box on Trex.
I'm looking at the picture. It doesn't look like they have those logs on the back.
Oh yeah.
I don't think so. But
19 Yankee 15mm Soviets. I gave them like big, bright, like not very battlefield realistic, but the big, like guards, parade ground markings, like the huge, not huge, but like the somewhat prominent red stars and the guards emblem on the turret facings and on the searchlight covers. Again, I doubt they would go into combat like that, but God bless, you got to give them some kind of color because you're right, it's just green, man. And this way, at least they have some bright red, and the bright red on the green, makes it pop a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably not the best battlefield option, but it's fun to paint that way.
Awesome. So
it's a nice target.
Yeah, right. So that'll be me finishing that up. So going from there. All right. You know what time it is? It's what everybody waits for every show. It's when the news hits the fan. I still got to get your intro, Marty. That's one thing I have failed yet to do.
I was going to say that's not going to work. We got to work on that one.
Right. Take it away, Marty.
All right. Well, a couple. We'll start off with a couple of stories from Spectre Miniatures. So on the September 21st, so a couple weeks ago, essentially, or thereabouts, Spectre announced that they are moving. So they are moving into a bigger office, which they said means they'll have space to further expand Spectre Miniatures, as well as they hinted at perhaps that means some new releases. And they're also talking about creating gameplay videos.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I can report that they have, in fact, completed that move.
Awesome.
And along with completing that move, though, they weren't kidding. They had a plan. If you go to the Spectre Miniatures webpage and you look at new releases, they dropped 2 new releases. Or 3 technically, I guess, because I think So they've got the Agents Crisis Response Squad guys.
Mm-hmm. So
those are kind of cool looking dudes. Dudes and dudettes, I should say, because they've got female characters in there as well. So they're looking good. They don't actually. Well, they went on sale on the 30th, so they are for sale now. When I made the note, I'm like, they're not on sale yet. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, time has passed since I wrote that. So yes, they are available for sale now. So they're pretty cool looking, like PMC types. They're all in civilian clothes, but geared up, and they've got some really nice detail to them on the photo on the webpage. So hopefully that translates to when they arrive on your paint table as well. And then they have the what they call the Criminal Element Heavies Squad.
Mm.
So, these are like your super organized criminal bad guys that were like all former combat veterans.
Mm-hmm.
So they've all got like the matching bad guy uniform, but they're kitted out military style. They've got a plethora of military weapons. And
you said criminal heavies. I thought maybe they finally made a Tony Soprano figure.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's in one of their covert op kits as a limited run. But they've got the compact shotgun, and they've got LMG and FNAL. I mean, it's literally a shotgun blast of weapons. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. So they're pulling from all sorts of things there. But they're intended to be used as any sort of criminal organization, or as perhaps a mercenary group, or you could also use them as like a law enforcement, or like a spec ops unit for either a made up unit for like a made up country, or I don't know who's. I want to say that it could be for like somebody's unit somewhere in the world, but I don't know what. Looking at their uniform and with the mix of weapons and whatnot, I mean, it could be Spec Ops. Those guys run, all sorts of weird stuff depending on where they go. So, but they are pretty cool looking dudes as well. And then let's see, we got so the last one, new release is the VGB, the Very Good Boy. So it's has everyone seen the video from Boston Dynamics of like the dog robot? Because essentially that's what this is, except it's got a remote weapon station on its back.
Mm-hmm.
So it literally looks like a crow weapon station. So it's kind of cool. So it's I don't know, a drone, a robot. It's an unmanned ground vehicle. But it's a pretty cool looking little figure there. So you can bring some heat with that and operate it autonomously.
Very cool.
So I would encourage you to check that out if that's your jam. So good stuff from them. Glad to hear Spectre seems to be on the upswing. I mean, a couple years ago it was looking really, really rough for them. They were having some struggles, and I'm a fan of their stuff. I really like what they put out. So I'm glad to see it looks like they're they got a new space. They're putting out new stuff. They're bringing their A game, so to speak. So that pleases me. So hopefully they do well, and we wish them the best of luck.
Wow,
now,
very cool.
From a high note to a low note, those of you that just as know that I like to play Dust 1947. I know this isn't a huge, isn't right exactly in our wheelhouse, but as I said during our little hobby portion, I literally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 dudes that I'm in the midst of painting on my paint desk now. However, September 29th, Pelo Parente announced the war is over. Yeah. What does that mean? It means that Dust has essentially, to not oversimplify it too much, but it has essentially been killed by the coronavirus. What they said, I'll read you just a blurb of what they said. After an incredible 12 years run, Dust Studio has ceased operations. In the past couple of years, producing the beautiful miniatures and model kits that you know and love has become increasingly difficult and is now impossible for us to continue. There's many factors that led us here. Increased costs in shipping, labor, raw material were the most important. Increased import taxes between several regions were another. And on top of that, the pandemic, which has greatly disrupted our operations in China, where these figures are manufactured. So very sad news. That the game is. I'm gonna go with unsupported. Because saying that Dust 1947 is killed or the game is dead is not exactly true. And I say that because it doesn't mean I'm gonna stop playing. And judging by the response on the internet and social media and whatnot, there are many players that are like, well, okay. We're sorry we're not going to get new stuff, and I really wanted to get these things, so I'll have to figure out how to get my new figures to round out my army or whatever. But we're still playing. So there's several community groups that are regional that are like, hey, we're going to keep rolling. I mean, War Factory, the EU distributor, is at a convention selling stuff this weekend. So not dead, but unsupported. They're not going to be manufacturing anything else. It'll be interesting to see in the future if anyone picks up the IP for this to go forward, because it's not the first time Dust has been dead. So we'll see if that stays, or who knows? A year or two, they may rise like a phoenix from the ashes and be back in business. We'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah.
But for now, no new stuff from Dust. kind of disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if you saw this on our page, but Chris Long posted a blurb about Front Rank.
Yep.
So Front Rank Miniatures has been acquired by Gripping Beast Miniatures. So Front Rank's not going anywhere. They're not dead. They're under new management. So Gripping Beast has got it lock, stock, and barrel. If you go to the Front Rank webpage, which is easy to do, frontrank.com, the first thing that they have is a banner that pops up over the page and says that they're delighted to announce that Gripping Beast has acquired Front Rank ranges and the website that allow for the handover to Gripping Beast. They're not taking any orders right now. All their outstanding orders, so if you've got something on order with them already, will be dispatched as normal. Gripping Beast is aiming to reopen the web page on October 14th. So it's going to be down for a couple weeks while they get things sorted out. I think that's reasonable and fair. And then Alec and Angela wanted to thank all their many loyal customers for choosing Front Rank figurines over the years, and are confident that you will experience the same high standard of service, be able to continue to add to your Front Rank collections in the years to come. And they wish Gripping Beast every success in the future. So very nice. You gotta like that. Front Rank has several ranges of 28 millimeter medieval 17th century, 18th century, and Napoleonic figures, as well as a 40 millimeter American War of Independence line. So if you're into any of that, check them out. They do have nice stuff.
Very cool.
And then a couple of blurbs on some conventions. Oh, wait a minute! Before I go to convention, shout out to Jim for a shout out to Rasmus, because I almost forgot this, and this is near and dear to my heart. And Rasmus mentioned it on our Discord. So Rasmus, good man, thank you very much, because I almost failed to include this story this week, because for some reason I had it in my head that we had already talked about it. And we probably did talk around it a little bit at some point, but we didn't mention it, and I don't know if it was official when we talked about it. So Battle Space, one of my favorite games, solo modern, ultra modern game by Robert Salter over at Table Salt Designs, has partnered with Modifius Entertainment, and they are getting, as we alluded to in previous editions, they are getting a whole deluxe starter kit. So this is going to be pretty cool. You get 4 dudes for your fire team that you got to run through there. All right, I don't know why my dogs are going crazy. So it
runs in the family.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Light them on fire. Not really, PETA. I like my dogs. You got your 4-man team that has to run around and do its thing. That's the basic core of the game. But the new deluxe edition, you get 2 new enemy factions. So now it includes a criminal organization and Dark Lake PMC, which I'm excited to hear about, because Dark Lake PMC, like, wait a minute, why did you call those enemies? Oh, so they're like evil mercenaries. And it's got 3 new pre-made playable forces, so you can play as CIA, Spetsnaz, or SAS. Fans of the original Battle Space, it says, will find that the rules have been expanded, clarifying some of the mechanics, addressing errata, so including some of the errata, which is really all done on Robert's Facebook page for Battle Space right now. And then it says something about any concerns players had with the first edition. They expanded and revised the rules for vehicles, so now they cover a broader amount of vehicle types, as well as including helicopters and boats. And then one of the really cool things here, and the community, the Battle Space have done this, but now they're going to codify it in the deluxe edition. the request for that players be able to create their own characters. So now you can customize your own dudes with stats and specialties and whatever, and they are going to kind of give you guidelines on how to do that. And then there's a mission generator as well, so it makes it faster to set up, and it gives you your deployment areas and objectives and where you got to exfil and all that jazz. So I'm really excited to see this. So as soon as this is available for pre-order, I will let you know, because I'm gonna.
Very
cool stuff. Yeah.
Very cool.
And then just a couple of blurbs on the convention news, particularly here in the U.S. Origins Game Fair is this weekend. It is going on as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
Today or tomorrow's the last day. But that's annual tabletop convention. It's held each year in Columbus, Ohio. So they've got a whole bunch of stuff. And I mean, this is the gamut. This isn't just like a tabletop war game. This is everything. So you can go everything from tabletop to video games and whatnot. Pretty sure that they've got cosplay and LARPing there as well. So lots of stuff going on there. So check them out. www.originsgamefair.com if you're interested in seeing what's going on. If you're in the area and want to make it out there, say hi to our friends Greg and Alicia, because one, they're Dust USA, so probably having a bad time there. But Greg is very involved, I know, through Gamma with Origins.
Right. Yep. Very good.
I got two more quick hits for you.
Go ahead.
Historicon 2021, we've talked about. I just wanted to let people know that registration is now open. So if you want to go, head on over to the HMGS webpage. It's /HCon home, and you can. There's a registration link there, so you can go ahead and register. And then Gen Con was last weekend, so while it may be over, turns out I didn't realize this. Gen Con has a Twitch channel, and they stream on it regularly. I mean, if you go to gencon.com /GenCon TV /Twitch streaming schedule, they've got stuff scheduled like 3 times a week for the entire month of October going on.
Nice.
So, I don't know what's in all of it, because it's just got like a link to it. It doesn't have a real big description. So depending on what they've called their link, you may or may not be able to figure out what it is. But take a look, see what they got. If that's your jam, there may be some cool stuff in there.
Very cool.
And that, sir, is my news.
Excellent. Nice work as always.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So you kind of pretty much already covered the one topic of the life and birth and death of games.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I kind of knew the dust thing was going to be happening for a while, so it didn't 100% surprise me.
And anyone that followed them closely could kind of see the writing on the wall. That's been a struggle for probably a year and a half, easy. And they were having some challenges before the Rona hit because of their factory move in China.
Yeah. So there was dollar amounts that they had to make to So basically, without giving away too much, there's a person who actually owns Dust, or a large majority of Dust that is not Paulo,
right,
or Oliver. So that person runs the factory and the manufacturing side of it. There had to be a certain dollar amount to be made to maintain the costs and to show, there was a value of continuing marketing this. Dust miniatures are extremely high quality, whether you get the kit, the primed, or the premier ones, right? They're very high quality. And the group was growing for quite a while, and still, and it's amazing to see what's out there. But what I've kind of noticed over the last few months is I've seen a lot of people selling their stuff. A lot of people selling their stuff. This is before the announcement. So I don't know if it was going. Every game has an up and down. It has valleys and troughs, right? Or troughs and peaks. But gamers are kind of fickle in some aspects. But it's sad to see it because it is a good game. It's easy to get into because you could literally go pick up one of those starter army boxes. That's how I got you and Chris into it. I introduced you to Greg and Alicia at Adepticon, and we got you into it, and it's fun. It's a good game, and my hope is that somebody else picks it up and continues with it. I don't know if Paolo is going to allow them. That's kind of like his baby. He created the art. He created.
That is all his. Yeah.
So, but you never know.
Design.
If the
then Oliver designed all the rules.
Yeah, and so if the right company comes along and offers the right amount of money, I'm not saying it's all about money, but if the right pieces fall into place, I could see another company picking it up.
And there, so on Facebook post, it was either yesterday or day before, somebody asked, on the Paulo Parente Big Dust page, because there's dozens of dust pages, but on Paulo's official one, someone asked, "Hey, what are the odds somebody's going to buy this IP?
Right?
To keep it alive." Now, Paulo didn't answer anything, but a couple of other people indicated that maybe there was some interest in that going on, but no details.
Right.
So, we'll have to see. I mean, the problem with that is, okay, so I buy the IP. They still have all the same problems that exist now. Turns out trying to manufacture this stuff in China and then ship it over here, still a huge challenge.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, does that mean that, if there was let's say there was a U.S. based buyer, could they move the manufacturing to the U.S. and ship from here? If there was an EU based buyer or a UK buyer, could they do it there?
Right.
I don't know, but that'd be pretty cool.
Well, those are all good thoughts, but to be honest with you, if you moved the plastics manufacturing to the U.S., unfortunately, the cost would skyrocket. I mean, labor and cost here in the U.S. is not cheap, right? That's why everybody 100%. Goes to China, because it costs a lot. It actually costs less to produce a product in China and ship it than it does to produce it in this country, right? And that's the sad fact.
But now the sad fact is, you maybe can get it produced in China.
Yep.
But now you got to get it shipped.
Right.
And that's
and shipping is so backlogged right now, and everything. I mean, it's crazy. A lot of it is pandemic related. But I can tell you, from past gaming industry experience, there was a couple games that I thought were totally dead in the water and were never going to be resurrected. One of them is Wild West Exodus. Wild West Exodus used to be made here in the U.S. It was part of Battle Foam. So the guys from Battle Foam created that and did a Kickstarter, and it had a life for a few years, and then it died out. But now it's picked up by, is it War Cradle Studios? I think it is. Owns it now.
Yeah, and they just had a new release like this week.
Yeah, new starter set coming out. So new 2-player starter set. So that's one. The Dystopian Wars Fleet Battles. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but that used to be owned by a UK company that made the Halo game, and they closed down. And it's not War Cradle Studios. It's somebody else in the UK bought them, and it has brought it back to life. Gaz's old game, Mythos, was picked up by a company as well. So I mean, there's life. It depending on if the pieces fall into place. So
sure,
there's enough following for Dust that I could see somebody picking it up if the price is right. Right, the pieces have to line up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
So which leads me to we talked about Robert Salter's game Battlespace getting picked up by Modifius. Which is a big game publisher, and they're going to create a 2-player starter set. And we talked to Robert, and he said when they get close to the release date, he'll come on the podcast and he'll talk about it. But obviously, we have to wait until get close to release. which is good. So it's nice to see a very independent guy get noticed by a bigger publisher and come to an agreement to have that publisher support his game and create, better, more professional products. So
yeah, I mean, Robert is kind of the dream, come true in this world.
Yep.
A year and a half ago, March of 20,
mm-hmm.
he dropped it. He dropped this on Game Vault.
Yeah,
it was PDF only. And then it was just, all the support was off of his Facebook page.
Right.
And so you look at, about a year and a half has passed, and now he's got, a whole deluxe, box set coming out.
Yep.
And, I was conversing with him last week a little bit, and we were talking about, while the social media community for this is fairly small, it is very active and engaged. I mean, these guys come up with community content. There's a fan-based expansion that's already out there that you can get off of the file section of the Battlespace webpage. I mean, these guys that are into it are into it.
Yep.
So that's pretty exciting for him. And now that it's going to be an actual box set, I hope that means that it will be more widely available and people will be more interested, and that it is hugely successful.
Yeah, because you think about it, Modiphius goes to all the big gaming conventions. So, he'll get exposure at Gen Con and Adepticon, I think they're at. I don't remember if Modiphius is at Adepticon. But all the big, Origins, Salute, all the big ones. So, they'll definitely be there. Very cool. So, that's the facts of life. We have games come, we have games go. Jim, is there any big game that kind of you were sad or disappointed that ended in your gaming career?
Not really.
No.
Because the games that have died, I just keep playing.
There you go.
Everyone who was buying the game still keep playing. We're talking about when games die or are no longer supported. Nothing meaningful, because I don't count Hill of Death. Nothing meaningful has been promoted or published for Pains Leader since 1977.
Yeah.
Guess what we still play? Guess what we're playing tomorrow?
Right.
I take that back. Toshash Miniatures came out with something in 2007. But other than that, it's been and Brian Train came out with Desert Leader in 2000. But yeah, that game has been basically, again, air quotes, dead since the late 70s.
Yeah.
And, people are still coming out with their own content. Imaginative Strategists still publishes stuff. People still make their own counters. Their own maps, not just me. Go over to Board Game Geek, you'll see people do this stuff. Again, and Pains Leader's not even the only one. How long has Battlefleet Gothic? I know I'm bringing up something 40K related, but forgive me. But that's just an example. Battlefleet Gothic has been pretty much out of commission for 25, 30 years, and the community is still, hugely supportive of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is kind of sad that, when a game that you like and follow has to shutter its doors, but at the same time, keep it alive on your own, in your own gaming space, your own dining room table, your own conventions. And,
There you go.
For sure. I mean, it's not like I got rid of my stuff, so I'm excited. Although that does mean that they'll get second mention on the Dead Wargamer Society podcast, I think. Because literally, they featured it on that podcast, and Greg was interviewed for it.
Yeah.
So,
well,
that might be coming up again. Who knows?
Yeah. So it is what it is, and a game is never really dead as long as there's a dedicated group of people to continue on playing it or create more fan base material for it, and stuff like that. Because think about it. World War II has been over for 80 years almost, right? And nothing new, tools or tracks or weapons has been manufactured World War II since World War II, but people still play it. So you can go out and get your, it's the same Sherman, it's the same Panzers, it's the same Wehrmacht, etc., but people still play it to this day. So the same point is for like Dust 1947. The weapons are all the same. You can play with what you got, and then it's just up to you to create scenarios, right? They've pretty much hashed out quite a bit of stuff. And you can always kit bash, right? If you wanted a German Tiger tank, if for the Axis, if you wanted to dustify a Tiger tank, you could do that. With 3D printing and everything, people are going to be doing that kind of stuff if it's not already done. And
there's a whole social media group dedicated to it.
Yeah. So I mean, while the game will not be made anymore, it's not dead. It's up to the players, the fans, to continue the legacy of that game. So that's a good thing. I mean, if you think about it that way, modern times you have home manufacturing options, laser cutters, 3D printers, etc. So it just makes it a little bit easier. All right. Let's go ahead and switch to our main topic for today. And today's topic is, can you enjoy a game where you are outnumbered and hopelessly surrounded and more than likely not to win? Can you enjoy that? Why are you bringing this topic up, Bill? Well, the reason being is last night I watched The Alamo, the 2004 edition version with Billy Bob Thornton and Dennis Quaid and cast of characters, and it was actually very good. I enjoyed it the second time around. I've watched it twice now, and I really enjoyed it last night. And I'll be honest to say that I got a little bit emotional at the end when Davy Crockett, when you thought him and his last remaining 4 or 5 Tennesseans, oh God, I can't believe I said Kentuckians, Tennesseans, were surrounded by the Mexicans, and we thought they were dead. And then at the very end, you see Santa Anna have Crockett on his knees with his arms behind his back and telling him, if you do this, and Crockett comes up with this wisecrack about, if you and your general surrender now, I'll try and be easy on you. And, and then as Santa Anna gets the order for his little troop to bayonet Crockett to death, Crockett looks at him, goes, I'm just letting you know now I'm a screamer, and he gave it a humanity. And like I told the guys before the show, I almost felt that Billy Bob gave more of humanity or a human touch to Davy Crockett than John Wayne's version of Davy Crockett.
That wouldn't be really hard to do, though, would it?
Well, yeah, there is that, but I mean,
did John Wayne ever really play a character beyond John Wayne?
John Wayne is John Wayne, no matter what he plays, right?
The difference between like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's an actor and a movie star.
Yeah. I mean, there are some arguments. There's a few John Wayne movies where he's not typical John Wayne. Red River comes to mind.
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan was terrible. Why are you bringing up that movie? Why, Jim? Why?
Quiet Man.
Quiet Man's a good one. The Searchers. He should have won the Academy Award for The Searchers. He should have. That's the one he should have won it for, more than True Grit. So.
But I actually agree about the 2004 Alamo movie. I think it's probably the most historically accurate movie that's been made about the Alamo, to my knowledge. Mm-hmm. Number one, they actually got the commander right for a change. Lieutenant Colonel Travis. They actually gave him a decent role in the movie. Most other movies focus all on Bowie and Crockett, which isn't right. At least not exclusively.
Right.
And they do a much better job at showing the broader context of what was going on at the Alamo. So you see a lot more Sam Houston. The movie, spoilers, ends with the Battle of San Jacinto.
Yeah. So
yeah, it does a lot better job as far as why they were there in that stupid broken down church, what the hell that battle was all about, why they didn't want to leave. They had plenty of chances. It's not like Santa Anna's, 4,500 men snuck up on them in the night. I mean, it took them like 3 weeks to get there. So everyone saw them coming and why they didn't leave and, why they made that stand and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And you can only really get that by the broader campaign context, so to speak.
Yep, exactly. So there are 2 major versions of the movie out there. John Wayne, and to be honest with you, John Wayne's version, that was his passion. Believe it or not, that was a movie he wanted to make so badly that he couldn't get studios to commit to it, so he put it on. That's he created Bat Jack Productions, and he financed a lot of that movie himself. That because he believed in that movie so badly that he wanted it made. So it was a very big, passionate project for him. It's your typical 50s, 60s movie. The big hero, blah blah blah. It's still an enjoyable movie. I do like it. It's a little long. It's longer than in the 2004 version. The 2004 version is 134 minutes. I can't remember how long John Wayne's version is, but it's longer. But they both have their points. But the 2004, it really shows the fort, the mission, and the weaknesses and how they did this and how they dressed. And they did a really great job of portraying Jim Bowie and what it was like for him. And, and it's just, they did a very historically, in my opinion, a better historical viewpoint. So, all right. So the question I put out there, can you have fun playing a game if you're playing the side of being surrounded, outnumbered, and more than likely probably not going to win? Can you enjoy a game like that? If you all know me, I enjoy those kind of games. Rorke's Drift, the Alamo. I have yet to play my Little Bighorn game. I do have it. I just haven't had a chance to play it yet. But I am drawn to those last stand
13 days
games.
to 13 hours.
Yep, there you go. So, I'm really drawn to events in history or hypothetical battles where you have a highly outnumbered, the true human spirit, the true dedication to a belief or an idea, or just to the guy to your left and to your right, right? That is what really draws me to those type of games. So we've all kind of played different games where you may be on the outnumbered, outmatched side. Do you feel like, oh man, how come I got that side? Or do you like, okay, let me try this or let me do this? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I've only got one comment about this whole thing, about your question. Nuts.
There you go.
Right?
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think especially in the context of if you are replaying a historical battle, I find those very entertaining and challenging because, you get the opportunity to be the commander that was in that situation. You're like, okay, I know what that guy did historically. Can I do better?
Right.
Can I, have a better outcome? I may not win the game, but, I'm going to try something different because I see, a flaw in that guy's tactics or whatever. And so I'm not going to do exactly what he did. I'm going to do something different and see if I get a better outcome.
Yep. Yeah. Even when I lose in those situations, like I did against Rasmus a couple weeks back when I played the South Korean tanks versus the North Korean horde, right afterwards, Jim and I were talking about it, and after action report was, I should have done this. If I were to play this again, I would do this and see how the outcome. A good gamer is a student, right? It's not just somebody who wants to throw stuff on a table, roll some dice, and kick the hell out of somebody, or have two armies just mash into each other, and roll a big pot of dice and see who comes out the winner. It's about the planning, the forethought, the strategy, the tactics. Do you learn from your mistakes? Do you compare it to what would have happened in real life or could have, if in a theoretical scenario? Because I believe it or not, believe me, I like being the underdog, right? It's not much fun for me to be the big superior army that can just sweep through and just wipe out stuff. That's not much of a challenge. It's not that much fun. So I like being on the other side. Now, obviously I don't want to be, 10, Polish cavalry going against the German blitzkrieg, because that's just no fun. You're going to get overwhelmed. But but even in those scenarios, depending on and Jim, jump in on this, take that example, where the Polish army literally had their mounted cavalry staving off the British blitzkrieg, how could you have done
British?
No, Polish. What'd I say?
No, you said the British fending off the British blitzkrieg.
Oh, did I say British? I apologize. Germans. So, can you modify or do delaying actions, and play those kind of games? So, I don't know, Jim, what do you think?
Oh, that's literally my bread and butter.
Yeah.
Is those kind of scenarios. So, yeah, there's lots to unpack here. Super quick. Can I enjoy games like that where I'm definitely going to lose? Number one, I would say yes, as long as I know that ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
If I sit down at the table and they say, look, this is a historical event or whatever, you're playing the French at Dien Bien Phu, you're basically done before the game starts. The point of we always talk about narrative in gaming. The point of the narrative, the point of the story of this game is to eke out as much courage and tragedy and, humanity or whatever as you can off this table and, just see how long you can last. If I know that up front, then yeah, certainly. If I'm going to sit down and play a game with you and like by turn 3, I'm like, man, this scenario is screwed, man. If you find out about it afterwards or halfway through the game, I've been in games like that where I'm like, I never had a chance. And it's not just, oh, my dice are bad or, oh, I made some wrong moves. But, I mean, you guys know me. I design scenarios. I design, literally now for a living, partially. I design scenarios. I design war games. I can tell if a game is screwed before it starts, easily. That's a little annoying. But if it's clear to the player up front, then certainly, then it's great. As far as how you handle this in scenario design, and like this goes to what Marty was talking about before, you are the commander in the historical situation. Could I have done better? That's literally how we design all of our Panzerleader scenarios that are based on historical event. I research it as closely as is reasonably possible. I mean, I don't spend years on a single scenario, but as close as is reasonable for a game, as deeply as is reasonably possible. I convert what was there into gaming language. I put it into Panzerleader or whatever system I'm using. And then assuming that I trust the game system. So this is going to be a true scale kind of a game. And then, play that game. Now that the historical outcome is going to be the win line, so to speak.
Yeah.
So again, a historical war game, you run across this stuff all the time. The Americans in the American Revolution, you're going to lose. The Vietnamese in a Vietnam War battle, you're going to lose. The Russians in 41 in Barbarossa, you're going to lose. The Polish in 39, you're going to lose. The battle, and this is an old catchphrase, so forgive me if I'm being repetitious, but the scenario has got to give the ability to, okay, you've lost the battle, but can you win the game? And again, if you go by what happened historically and you use that as your draw line, okay, if the battle comes out exactly as it did historically, the game's a draw. Great. Then you're going to have a great game because now all the air quotes losing side or the inferior side has to do is do just a little bit better than they did historically. Mm-hmm. And if the Egyptians are fighting the Israelis in 1967 and they went in there with 100 tanks and they all got destroyed in 20 minutes, then if you go in there with 100 tanks and you last 21 minutes, you win. Or at the end of 20 minutes, you have 2 tanks left. You win. Yeah. Obviously, you've lost the battle, but you've done better than the other side does. And anyone who's played Panzerleader, Arab-Israeli Wars, anyone who's played any of these games with me, I know I keep referring to those 2 games, but the same could be said for Valor and Victory. We did Dien Bien Phu exhaustively with Piotr in Valor and Victory, so it's not just Panzerleader. It's pretty much any of these more historically accurate games. He played the French in Dien Bien Phu, and I always overran him, but it always took me too long. It always took me too many casualties. It always, and so I think he wound up in that series like 6-5, or a 6 out of 5, a 5 out of 6 as the winner. Even though, of course, his French got overrun like every single time. Conversely, we also commemorated in 2019 the 80th anniversary of the invasion of Poland. Yep. And very often I played the Poles, and very often he played the Germans, or vice versa. The Germans are going to win that game all the time. It's a bit of a historical myth. Polish cavalry never really fought German tanks. That's something that happened. There is a kernel of truth to that. However, it is widely reported, so I mean that story is out there, and it's one of those things that has become fact after the fact. But there were definitely still cavalry units in the Polish army. There were cavalry units in almost all armies and throughout most of World War II. When I say cavalry, I don't mean like armored cavalry. I mean actually horse giddy up boy, cavalry.
Yeah.
The Soviets had like 500,000 cavalry in their army as late as 1944. The Germans had an SS cavalry division. So it's not just the Poles. The Poles did have cavalry in that campaign, and they did accidentally. They came out of a tree line, and they came out of a tree line. The exact circumstances of the event. They came out of a tree line, and it was a German armored car formation, like those little SDKFZ 222s.
Mm-hmm.
And they had just run into a line of Polish infantry with anti-tank rifles. So they were actually hung up and pinned down. And what the cavalry did was they close assaulted this stalled and shot up column of German light armor with, and of course they didn't use their lances, but they got close with their rifles, and they did basically a close assault. They saving Private Ryan, these German armored cars, Molotov cocktails, grenades, and stuff like that. I think they actually won. But that's where that myth comes from, and I bring it up because it shows that the Poles can win in 1939, and it did happen a couple times. Yeah. The French won some really big battles against the Germans in 1940. The first big true tank battle of World War II, the French absolutely stomped the Germans on day one. I'm talking about the Battle of Hanut, 12 and 13th May 1940. At least on day one. Day two, the Germans brought in some Stukas, and that was the end of that.
I didn't know that.
It's the first big tank battle in history, really. Two French armored cavalry divisions ran into. I'm going to totally screw this up. I'm not even going to say what German. I think it's 5th Panzer, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. At a town in Belgium. It's like the second or third day of that invasion out to the west. And then Univille is another one. That's much later in the campaign. Or Juniville, my French is terrible. That's where Guderian goes up against de Gaulle and some stuff like that. And there's a bit of a battle going on there. But of course, for every battle the French win, they lose 20, and hence the campaign comes out the way it does. But again, if you set up your scenarios ahead of time and you say, okay, look, this is how the battle turned out historically. So if the losers, air quotes, the Egyptians in 67, the Syrians in 73, the Soviets in 41, the French in 40, the French in Dien Bien Phu, the 7th Cavalry at Little Bighorn or whatever side is going to get slaughtered. As long as the scenario is set up in such a way where if you can do a little bit better, now it's a challenge, and this is what goes back to what Marty was talking about. Now it's a challenge. Can I just do a little bit better? Yeah, I might get wiped out on turn 11, but historically they only lasted till turn 10. So maybe I can still win the game. And there is where you get that, that great, can you change history, or can you even just do a little bit better than the historical commander? And that I think is a lot of fun. But I think that if you just set up a game as a straight up, as a heads up match, and then by the middle of turn 4 you realize that, man, I never had a chance at this game. That can be frustrating. Because hobby time is limited. You spent a Sunday playing this game with this guy, and then you realize that I'm just really, a punching bag for his force, and this gets old really quick. So I think if it's handled correctly, I definitely think that you can have a good time on the losing side.
Yeah, absolutely. And playing with some of the historical scenarios, that you're the underdog, but could you make it a delaying action where you actually can delay the aggressor long enough that you get reinforcements? Those are really cool games, because you're like, all right, I played 8 or 9 turns all defense, taking my lumps, but guess what? My reinforcements just arrived, and now we gonna duke it out for real. I mean, I love that scenario.
That's where you have like that movie, The Outpost, where those guys
exactly, yeah,
and got pinned down. They're like, look, that B-1 bomber is showing up eventually. And once it does, just sit back and enjoy the fireworks. But the trick is you have to last that long, and that's not easy.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I say, those are very challenging games, and are kind of in the wheelhouse of what I find to be entertaining and fun to play. I know I'm going to take a beat down. I mean, that's the scenario. Let's face it. In warfare, if you were in a fair fight, you did it wrong. The whole point is to be able to overwhelm your enemy. Now, there are folks that would rather be on the side that's already set up to be the overwhelming force. But either way, you still get to you get to play the game, and maybe you can change the outcome. Be like, yeah, even though you thought you were set up, it's fun to play. It's fun to play the winning side, the Israelis in '67. I can't wait to play the Israelis in '67 or the Germans in '41 until you look at the victory conditions, and you're like, okay, the Israelis wiped out this brigade, that battalion, this division. They advanced 40 miles. They didn't take any casualties. But now you have to do better than that. And you look at the victory conditions, and you're like, there's no way I can win this game. This has happened to a lot of players with me, where they sit down, they play Arab Israeli Wars, they want to play Arab Israeli Wars, they say, I'm going to play the Israelis. I'm like, okay, you're always on the attack, right? That's bad, because the attacking is definitely the harder player, the harder side to play. You're always on the offensive, and this isn't just about, any kind of a moral judgment or who's starting these wars or whatever. It's just strictly in game terms. When you're on the attack, man, you have to coordinate, especially in a good game, so many different arms of the service or whatever to get it all, and it has to be at the right place at the right time, and all has to come together. And if you're a new player to a game, and then you're up against these Mount Everest steep, victory conditions, it's hard. Yeah,
and at the same time, it's gratifying if you make it, but when you have to do better than the IDF did in '67, when you have to do better than, Panzergruppe Guderian in 1941, holy shit, these are the biggest victories in the history of warfare, and you have to do better than them in order to win. It's like, can I just play the Russians next time?
Yeah, it's a pretty high bar to cross.
You lose when you're playing the big, doughy, squishy side. It's a very forgiving game. I lose half my army on turn one. That's cool. I got half left, and I can still win. Because I have to have one counter left at the end of the game, and I still win.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're playing the Israelis and you lose one tank platoon of like M48s, you're like, oh god.
What I find kind of frustrating though is, and it kind of goes to a point that you made earlier about a game that's supposed to be balanced. And it's set up where each player brings a list of X many points. Bring 100 points of dudes. I am not good at list building. I am here to tell you, I'm the rule of cool. I'm like, I want to see this guy, and he looks good, and I like these things. But that doesn't mean that they're the best to actually play that particular game with, as well as, until we get to the table, I don't know what my opponent is bringing. So I may be set up as the best ground force ever, and it turns out this guy brings all mechanized or aerial attack, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get slaughtered. This is not gonna be good.
In some ways, list building is the antithesis of historical gaming. I know that's a blasphemous thing to say. List building is created so that people can, especially in miniature gaming, can go out, buy the toys they like, paint them up, and put them on the table and be able to enjoy them. So I totally get it. But you'll never see list building in any of my games. The list building is what was there on the day.
I was going to say, historically, we are given the list. We know what the starting conditions are, per se. We can take a snapshot in time and say, okay, on this date in this location, there were these units. This was who's there and who had what. But some of the games I play, it's you bring your list, they bring their list, and I have definitely screwed the pooch on this one. I'm gonna get whacked.
Even if the actual point totals are the same. Yeah. People have been trying to come up with a point list for Panzerblitz since 1975. It's now the year 2021. They're still trying, and they're still failing. It's impossible to do it because the game is, how much should a Panther platoon be worth? A Mark V Panther platoon. Well, if you're on defense and you're on high ground and you've got an ocean of T-34s coming at you, that Panther's worth 1,000 points. It's going to kill every time it picks up the dice. It's going to kill another platoon of Panthers. If you're on attack and you have to invade a town full of Soviet Guards rifles, that Panther is one big death trap. You know, you're not going to make it past your lager point. It should be worth negative points because it's a liability.
Yeah.
It depends on the situation. You can't just look at a unit in a list and say, oh, this is worth 50 points, this is worth 82 points. And then they come out with these extremely specific point costs. Like this is, 91.3 points. And I'm like, how the hell did you get at that? What
new math
did you use to figure that out? Yeah.
It's Common Core.
I mean, list building, we're like, okay, both sides have 1,000 points. That works for like meeting engagements or something like that. But if one side's on attack or one side's on defense, there goes your list points, your list game right out the window. Now games like Battle Group do address this. So, they're not, ignorant of that at all. Like if you're on defense, defense is an actual item you can buy in your list. It's like, oh, you're on defense? Okay, that costs you 300 points. Now you have a 700-point list to take up against the other guy's 1,000-point list. I'm being a little loose with the math here, but I'm just making a point. There are certain battlefield conditions that you can buy and add them to your list that are terrain, whether or not you're on attack or defense, minefields, off-board 88 shots, stuff like that. And these are all the things that sort of help you with defense.
Yeah, and
invisible.
Or hidden anti-tank guns or whatever, like some kind of like hidden deployment or something like that. Certainly. Again, that's where attack and defense comes in. But if you just set up like a heads up, which is fine, like for a convention or a tournament, 1,000 points versus 1,000 points, and you just meet in the middle of the field, Braveheart style. I mean, go for it. It's fun. It's not really the kind of game I enjoy. My type of game is much more like what Bill's talking about. I mean, one side may not be pretty much doomed to death at the start. It may not be that extreme. Some of my games definitely are. But usually it's, war is never fair, and one side was walking in with one hell of a stacked deck. The good news, the victory conditions account for that and stack the victory conditions against the player. So the analogy I always use is like picture like a scale or a teeter-totter or whatever. Some people think that asymmetrical victory conditions are just okay, there's 1,000 points on this side, so you got 10 units, each worth 100 points, and on this side of the lever you have 1,000 units, they're each worth 1 point. That's not really asymmetrical victory conditions. They both have 1,000 points.
Right.
It's one side has, like, say Vietnam. Okay, your American side is going to have 20 units worth 50 points apiece. That's 1,000 points. The Viet Cong, their units are only worth 1 point apiece, and you only have 300 of them. So it's 300 versus 1,000. The problem is that the fulcrum on which that lever pivots is split much more toward the Viet Cong side, so that they have all the leverage. They're going to hit you first. It's okay if they get wiped out. They can hide behind civilians. They can hide behind buildings. Half of them are hidden. They don't have to evacuate casualties.
They can infill and exfil via hidden tunnels. So they can't be engaged.
They don't have to hold any kind of ground. Right. Whereas the other side has to hold ground, and the NVA player or the Viet Cong player knows what ground that is, so you totally know where the enemy's going. And they're never
one side doesn't play by the rules.
Totally, yeah. So, when it comes to stuff like that, but again, that is up to the scenario designer or the game designer, and that can get tricky. But if it's like I've already said this, so I won't repeat myself, but if it's handled correctly, absolutely. The problem comes in when it's not handled correctly, and that's where you have hurt feelings, and I just wasted my whole weekend playing this cockeyed game with you and whatever. And that's what I'm often very, halfway, Bill probably remembers halfway through his game with Rasmus 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh my God, I'm already apologizing because Rasmus is getting wiped out. Rasmus, I'm so sorry. Turn 2, Bill, I'm so sorry. You're getting wiped out. Bill, I'm so sorry. You're getting wiped out. And it came down to 3 points at the end, 28-25. So that was like huge sigh of relief at the end of that game. I was like, oh my God, this game came out pretty balanced. there were some quick deployment issues at the beginning, and then Rasmus got very lucky at the end that he wound up scraping by with 3-point victory. So it's like this game is damn near perfect, or at least the scenario is. So awesome.
But see,
at first I was terrified.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but at the beginning of that game, you're like, it's broken. Oh, this is all jacked up. But this is why we played the game.
I thought the same thing on the other side. I was like, oh my, because then like the tide turned so bad. Like on turn 2, I was like, oh god, this game really is screwed up, but it's screwed up the opposite. So now I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here as the scenario designer. On turn 1, I thought this game was completely bonkers towards the South Koreans. On turn 2, I'm like, South Koreans are a speed bump to these North Koreans. And it wasn't until like we got done on like turn 6 and we actually counted up the points. Like, oh, we came within 3 points. Okay. And we kind of know where those 3 points went. Between initial deployments and some lucky die rolling on the last turn of the game. All right. But at first, because again, that's where hurt feelings come in, and that's where people feel like they've wasted their time. And as a scenario designer, that's what me personally, that's what I'm desperate to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to turn somebody off. So even in a game like that, you don't want to turn somebody off early in the game and then have them push away from the table. One, I think that's poor form as a gamer, but I also understand that some people just get that frustrated and like, I'm not investing my time in this anymore. I'm gonna go play.
But even if they're polite enough to sit through the rest of the game, you damn sure that they're never coming back.
Yeah.
And gamers are hard enough to, good players are hard enough to come by as it is. You don't want to alienate anybody.
Yeah.
And I think you just hit on a completely different part of it that no one's mentioned up to this point is the gamemanship, the personal aspect of it. Because there's been games that Marty and I have played, and once I just got whomped, we still had fun because we're playing games. Well, when your Sergeant West is nuts with the power fist, beat down all my tanks. I'm like, what the? But still, you're with friends. You're playing a game.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Well, I was gonna say, and then when we, when Chris and I play tested the, which game was that? It was Ultra Combat Modern. When we were trying to figure that out before we did the video, Chris destroyed me. It was bad. So everyone that he didn't kill, he captured of my guys, and he killed most of them.
And I don't think I took any damage.
No, I hit one of your guys. I think I got one. I think I got one dude. He survived. I didn't kill him.
Right.
I think I hit one the whole time. It was not good, but it was fun. We had a good time.
Yeah, and that's it.
We got to push our little dudes around my kitchen table and sort out how the rules were working and
drank some good beer.
Yeah. And then we worked with Colin on the morale stuff for errata because that was part of what we couldn't figure out. So it was good times.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys, any final thoughts before we close out today's show? It was a good topic. So you guys out there listening to the podcast, make sure you comment your thoughts on how you feel about playing in these type of games or scenarios. As you know, personally, for me, I really enjoy the challenge. I may go into it knowing I'm probably not going to win, at least in the, last man standing category. But, like in Jim's cases, I might screw up that timeline where it's a victory based upon the criteria. So I always enjoy that challenge. I always like the the true grit, if you will, of the human spirit. So I enjoy those kind of games. And what do you guys think out there? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share our podcast, our YouTube channel, our Twitch channel, Facebook, and make sure you visit our website. That website, again, is www.thesitreppodcast.com. Check it out, and make sure you check out the supply room for all the awesome merch we got going on. And last but not least, make sure you check out our sponsor, modernmini3d.com, and check out what they have to offer. So for Bill and the rest of the crew, we want to thank you for joining us on this episode of the Sit Rep Podcast. Enjoy your gaming weeks, and we will see you shortly in the next exciting adventure of the Sit Rep Podcast. Take care.
You have been listening to the Sit Rep Podcast. We hope you have enjoyed the show. Make sure you like and subscribe to all of our channels on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Discord. Remember to join us every other weekend for a new episode of the podcast, and don't forget our other programming on Wednesdays and Sundays. Thanks for listening.